So today, since it's our first time interviewing together, what we want to do is kind of go back to how did you start all of this and how did you get to where you are now? So we know you are the Unclutter Coach. So
I am, yes. So kind of my origin story for my business is that several years ago, almost 10 years ago now, my house was making me feel crazy. I am an artist, so it's really important to me how my house looks, and I'm a homebody, so it's important that it feels really like a refuge for me. And it was feeling cluttered and disorganized, and I could not seem to get a handle on it. So I decided to do this thing called relentless incrementalism. It's this great concept of
okay, I gotta take notes on that. Relentless.
incrementalism.
Oh,
Isn't that an amazing title? It's a little scary, but it's
what
really
is that? Okay,
so
tell me what that is.
That through small, sustained steps, you can make big change.
Okay.
So if you're facing a project that feels overwhelming or gigantic, you just take a small step every single day, and eventually you get there. So I started this project at my house of getting rid of 5 things, at least 5 things every single day. And sometimes it was more than 5, and sometimes it was just 5. And as my house kind of slimmed down, I found it was so much easier to put kind of organizational systems into play. And I really built this great habit of just getting rid of stuff when I was done with it. I didn't have to think about it so much anymore. I would just look at something and say, yep, you serve a purpose, great, see ya.
Wow.
And it worked so well for me that I thought I should be helping other people do the same thing.
So when did you come across this, and how did you come across it?
So I was actually working at the Oregon Food Bank, and this is a concept that I was introduced to there because there's a guy who runs this amazing whole sort of wraparound service agency in Toronto. But he started by handing people food boxes, but he realized that if you don't have enough food, there are a lot of other things that are wrong in your life. But he was going to start by giving people food, and then he was going to help them through, financial literacy, and then he was going to help them with nutrition education, and eventually through all these small steps, people would have so much more self-efficacy.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is really cool. So how long ago was that?
So that was in 2011, and I did it really solidly for 8 months, like every single day. And by the end of 8 months, I was like, oh, my house is the way I want it. I mean, it's, it is not always tidy. It is not always perfectly organized, but basically it feels like a really nice place to live.
So, so 5 items every day. And this is kind of your theme that you've carried into your business, right? This 5 a day thing. Can you tell us more about it?
Because I think I really want people to understand this concept. I feel like when people's houses are super cluttered, they walk in and just feel this like, oh, I don't even know where to start. I can't do it. It seems painful. It seems difficult. And so my response is, could you find 5 things? Could you just find 5 things that you don't want? See, that wasn't that hard, was it? Could you find 5 more? It doesn't have to be like, you're going to clean your entire house in a weekend and it's going to be beautiful and it's never going to get messy again. It's just slow, steady steps.
Nice. I love that. And so also, I mean, what do you call it? You call it something like that, like 5 a day or something that you're doing on Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account called Toss5. I actually have not been doing it quite as much right now because it's hard to find places to distribute your stuff. Although you can always find a box and put it in the basement and just keep adding to it every day. But yeah, so Toss5 is my Instagram handle for that project.
Oh, nice. Okay, awesome. And so tell me about your background. What were you doing before? You said you were working for the Oregon Food Bank. How did you?
Yeah, I've had kind of a varied career. I actually owned an art-based business for a long time. I painted and sandblasted glassware, which I sold to galleries around the country, which was really fun. And I closed that business in 2008 when the recession hit, and shockingly, people were not buying expensive hand-painted glassware. And I had been volunteering at the food bank for a really long time, and they had an opening there that sounded interesting. So I jumped in and worked there for about almost 9 years.
Wow. Now that's a long time too. Okay. So
yeah, it was a really fun place to work. And it was such a great feeling to feel like I was, really making a difference in people's lives and helping people, which I'm hoping is still the case in this business.
It's still happening. And And that's the hope in all businesses, really. Like what we're doing is helping other people in something that they're either struggling with or they need, and we're filling that need, right?
Yeah.
So, and I love the Oregon Food Bank. I know that
Oh,
when
yeah.
I worked with nonprofits, we brought groups over there and
Yep.
sorting. So, and taking the tour of all the refrigerators and giant freezer
Yep.
areas and everything. So, I mean, they're
Yeah.
an amazing
Please,
organization.
everybody donate now. That is one of the lifelines to people who are really struggling during this pandemic. A
Yeah.
lot of people needing food assistance.
Yeah. So, and I do want to turn over to, what you do. How did you come up with Unclutter Coach?
Well, I think I wanted to put the word coach in there because I wanted to make it clear to people that I am helping you figure out how to do this for yourself. So I am so happy to come in. I love working one-on-one with people, but I really want to teach them how to be able to make quick, painless decisions, how to set up really simple systems, and how to create better habits that will
Mm-hmm.
keep you from getting back into this mess later down the road. So I really want to coach people to be able to do it themselves, because I don't really want you to hire me again in a year. I don't want you to call me and say, remember that mess we cleaned out? It seems to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I remember the other thing that I think is very unique about your style and the way you do things is that you're not just going to go in and declutter for people and then leave, right? Like it's not like you just go into a house and, of hoarders or whatever. You are working directly with the homeowner or the renter or whoever to
Yeah.
declutter their spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. So I come in, I ask you, what is the part of the house that is making you feel the most crazy today? Like, let's just give you a nice big win and save you from yourself. And
Ah,
then we go through things. We really go through things one by one. And I have learned that often people kind of have to tell the story of an item before they can let it go. So people may have, someone might have a shirt that they used to love, or they wore it to their best friend's wedding, or, it's got some sentimental value. And once they have sort of expressed that, then they can let it go. So it can be super helpful to have somebody with you, whether it's, a professional or just your friend. So you can kind of talk through the process
oh,
of letting
that's
go of things that were
nice.
once important.
Okay, so my marketing brain is kind of going crazy right now. So I thought I might share with you something that I thought of, and you can totally shoot it down because this is just on the fly. It's not like I prepared this and to tell you about it. But so you're talking about how you're helping people get rid of the stuff that's making them crazy in their house. So you
Yeah.
go in and you're helping them, and they have these stories that are associated with each item, right? And
Right.
so I thought, okay, well, maybe that's like for your blog, you could have a place where people come and share the stories of their stuff right before they give it away or get rid of it. So there's like
Yeah.
categories: get rid of, give away, goes to another family member, goes to Goodwill or whatever.
Yeah. That
So
is a great idea, because it's so funny. I had a woman once go through a stack of business cards that she couldn't bear to get rid of. And she was like, oh, I met this. She told me who each person was, and then I put them all in the recycling.
see,
But they were attached
oh,
to a
that's so
different
great.
part of her life that she was having a little bit of trouble letting go of, And so, there's like this little grieving process sometimes. Like, this was something that was really important to me. And although I don't need it anymore, like, I have to grieve a little bit that part of my life is over,
Right, right.
which then gives you
Well,
space for new stuff.
yeah, and she has space for new stuff. No, I
Yeah.
love that. So
And I do not mean new physical stuff. I mean new experiences and new,
right. So part
new.
of why I'm doing this series of interviewing business owners is to help tell their story. And so one of the things I'm noticing is that during COVID-19, we're feeling like, how do we connect to people because we can't hug or we can't shake hands, we can't even be around other people, or physical distancing, which is the new word for social distancing, right? And so we're separated, and we're obviously, a lot of us are on Zoom or we're on social media, but how can we connect more deeply? And so
Right.
so that's where I would say, as a marketing person who enjoys marketing for good, that's what I like to say. I would challenge you to go ahead and do something like that where you are involving your client and telling their story and sharing either on your blog or videos as a way to release what they're releasing so that they feel like it's still something that they've taken care of, or that they've given a good home to. They've given this sentimental idea, at least this home to live in online, where it's not taking up any space for you, right?
Like, yeah, I love that. I think that is a terrific idea.
So anyway, just that's my challenge for you.
I know you always have such good ideas. She's really good at what she does, people. Really good.
Thank you. So, and so the question for me is, there was this movement a while back with Marie Kondo, right? And she has that amazing book. And what's your opinion on that? Like, what do you feel when you hear about Marie Kondo and what she did?
Well, first, I am so thankful that she brought this out into the light. I mean, I think people have been decluttering for years. It's not brand new, but she really made a movement out of it. And I think we need that. I think in this culture, we have gotten to this weird place where 90% of the people I talk to feel like they own too much stuff. Like, this was not the case 100 years ago, right? Our grandparents weren't struggling with this. So I'm really happy that she did that. Her kind of spark joy doesn't speak to me as much as some other things, but I think it's great that she's got people thinking about it. One of the things that I like to concentrate on is sort of the emotional obstacles to getting rid of things, because I think to me that kind of picking something up and do I like it or do I not is a little bit simplistic, because I think we hold on to things that we don't even necessarily want for a huge variety of reasons. We hold on to them from a sense of obligation because somebody gave us this gift, and isn't it rude to get rid of it even if I've never looked at it? Or we hold on to things out of a sense of guilt. I paid too much for it and now it would be wrong to just get rid of it. There are all these sort of emotional obstacles, and I think getting past those is really helpful to actually doing the work.
Awesome. One of the things I remember during one of our business retreats, we were talking about your work, and I love how people can come to you in whatever state they're in. So you're kind of this non-judgmental, safe space for them. And so that's something that I remember about you. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, because you know what? The struggle is real for me too. I am a collector of things. If I weren't careful, I would own a million things. In fact, I do this sort of funny thing where if I have 2 of something, I immediately want 5. And so sometimes if I have 2 of something and I find myself like, could I add another one? I'm like, I got to get rid of one.
Oh my gosh, this is gold.
So yeah, it's hard. It is hard. So yeah, no judgment. And I also I don't care what you keep or what you get rid of. It doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is that you're making your home feel good to you.
Feel good.
So yeah, no judgment.
So during these interviews, I like to kind of take notes on the nuggets. So I'm just going to put this out here because if I have 2 of something, I immediately want 5. I think that is so cute. And it's, I mean, I'm sure that people can relate to, I think that for me, I get a lot of books. And so I've gone to getting them on my phone now. So I use like the Libby app, which is through the library, and try to get as much as possible there. If I can't get it through the library or through online free sources, then I might buy the book. But, I've pretty much converted most of what I've been doing, as far as like buying a new book every time to just borrowing it online with the library. So we love it. So what are okay, you said you help people with their emotional obstacles. What are some of the ways, like, how do you help them with that?
Well, I think we kind of, sometimes actually just mentioning it is enough. One of the first things I talk to people about is the sense of obligation. I think people really struggle with getting rid of gifts. And I'm like, this person bought this thing for you. They bought it for you because they love you. It is an expression of love. The object doesn't matter. And I also do say to people, like, if you think your Aunt Esther is going to get mad at you for getting rid of that tea set, like, it might be time to be a grown up and say, I get to choose what is in my house. I have agency over my life, and if I don't want something, I don't have to keep it because someone else thinks I should.
Nice.
And then sometimes we kind of talk through things like, you clearly don't like this thing. Why is it hard to get rid of it? Like, just tell me the story. What is going on? And then sometimes we can kind of figure out what the block is and move past it.
Nice, nice. So,
one of the things that I see a lot these days is people who have their parents' stuff. And this happened, my mother died a couple of years ago, so I ended up bringing home a lot of my parents' stuff to my house. And that's kind of a tricky one. And it's something most of us will go through at some point, is having a loved one die and having to figure out what to do with their stuff. And the emotion is so deep, it can be really challenging. Yeah. So a lot of people have a garage full of their mother's stuff or their father-in-law's stuff or their uncle's stuff. And like, what do I do with it?
So you see that a lot. How long is the process you're working with people? I mean, is it kind of like instantaneous, or you're doing it over several months, or?
Ideally, it's over several months. I do work with people on a short-term basis, but I really love to work with people over time, because I think we can kind of dig into, like, what are some new habits that you could form that would really make a difference in your life? And, you know, like, once we get this sort of top layer, the low-hanging fruit out of the way, let's dig into those closets and the stuff that's buried, you know, in the basement.
Yes.
Because sometimes that's the stuff that's really like the hardest to get rid of. Like, it's not so hard to get rid of your extra water bottles and your extra t-shirts, but it may be harder to get rid of your childhood, you know, memorabilia.
Yeah. I'm going to out my sister right now, but she's really good about not attracting any clutter except for water bottles.
Oh, isn't that funny?
She has this strange, like, obsession with water bottles, which I only noticed when I went to her house, and everything is like immaculate. And then in like the dishwasher where it's just all water bottles. I mean, she's a runner, so, you give her that, but it's funny because I think that if I gave her like any free, water bottle from a convention or whatever, she would still have that. So
yeah, that is one of the things that's really challenging, is getting rid of things that are potentially useful, right. And I think the water bottle is so useful. So it seems like
there you go.
Better than 3, but I actually worked with a family a while back who had a lot of water bottles. And I was like, so what seems like a reasonable number of water bottles for a family of 4? And like, maybe we'll give you a couple extra.
Yeah.
I think that can be a really useful way to think about your stuff. If you just kind of think, like, what seems like a good number of t-shirts for me to own? Then you worry less about, like, do I love each one of these t-shirts? You just decide, like, I need 12 t-shirts and that's it. And I may get rid of some that I like because I don't need 35.
Yeah, that's true. There's always things. I have way too many jackets. So I love jackets. Yeah. I used to have this thing for shoes, but, not so much anymore. But jackets, I'm a sucker for that. Like, I have like a lot of different colors and kinds, and even for snowboarding, I have I like to have like different outfits.
Yeah.
Not that we're going anymore because we're in lockdown. So whenever that lifts, then we'll get to go again. But
and the thing is, I would say, if you're wearing those jackets and you like those jackets, they're not clutter. Clutter is really the extra stuff, the stuff that you don't use and you don't love.
Yeah.
You get to keep your jackets if you want to.
We wear all of them. We wear them at some point. So
that's great.
It's a lot of fun. But what are some of the most interesting things you've come across that that people are keeping?
Yeah, I have this really fantastic client. He is in his 80s, and he has been a collector his entire life. And all of a sudden he realized, I have a house full of stuff and I don't need it. And he has really cool collections. He collects statues of angels, and he collects candle holders, and they're all beautifully displayed around his house. But I took out of his house a 6-foot tall golden wooden or gold painted wooden angel statue. That was one of the most interesting things. I'm like, am I going to be able to fit this in the car?
Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine like getting that, first of all.
No.
Like, Where does that come from?
I
Right.
know collecting can get out of hand. I think you think that, as I said with mine, if I have two, I want five. I think he loved some of these really beautiful things and he had a collection, and then it just kind of got out of hand. And he
Yeah.
then suddenly thought, oh my gosh, I have 280 angels in my house. Maybe I don't need all of those.
I do have a lot of like crystals and feathers and stuff. So so I'm definitely there. I try to like change it up, every so often.
Another thing that I find really fascinating is a lot of parents have trouble getting rid of children's stuff. So I'll go to houses where the kids are grown up, but the parents are still holding on to their children's toys, like
Yeah.
a lot of toys. And I get, having a few toys around in case someone brings a kid over, but it is really interesting that parents are very invested in keeping their children's stuff. And I hear a lot like, oh, she's going to want this someday. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. I don't think your now 20-year-old is someday going to want her collection of 150 little pet shop pets. I just or holding on to baby clothes. It's really interesting. I think there's this desire to keep our children close, once they've moved out of the house, somehow holding on to their stuff must feel to a lot of people like keeping a piece of their childhood.
Yes. I don't know about you, but it seems to me that there are a lot of storage facilities, like storage.
Oh my gosh. More every year.
And they pop up all over the place. And I know that when we were moving originally, so when I moved to McMinnville from Portland, and we were in a smaller space first before we moved into our house, we put some things in storage, but it was actually really tough to find an open storage unit anywhere close to this. So we drove, I don't know, it was like 20 minutes away for our storage unit for a while. But do you see that kind of going up? I kind of feel like it's just more and more and more, but I don't know.
It really is actually. And in fact, I think last year sometime on my blog or in a newsletter, I looked at the statistics, and every year the storage space is growing exponentially. It is crazy how much storage space is going up.
Oh my gosh.
It's not a good sign in my mind, of course. I think once, it's one thing if you're putting stuff in storage temporarily, as you were, right? You're moving and you've got to put it somewhere before you have a larger place to maintain it. But I do talk to people who are like, oh, and then we have some things in storage. And I think, oh, once it's in a building that's not even attached to your house, forget it. You are never going to go through that stuff. It just sits there.
Yeah, it's so true.
It can sit there for years and years and years and cost you a lot of money. And also, I think be like this sort of subtle weight on your soul.
And I think that's important to bring up. Like, that's why you're doing what you're doing with people and helping them through this.
Exactly.
So
I know how your house looks, that's how it feels, right? Are you happy at home? Are you relaxed? Is it your haven?
So it's almost 11, and I know before we wrap up, I'll just say that, we're going to continue this conversation next week. So Julie and I will stay on here so we can find a time together for next week. And then, if you have questions, I have a million questions. So I'm constantly I'm so excited that I get to find out more about you and what you do. And for everybody who's in their house and wondering what they can do, then check in with us, because I'm sure Julia will have a lot more tips on decluttering and all the questions that people have about that, and how they get going with that. So
so much advice.
You want to say to people before we sign off?
Well, thank you so much, Molly, for giving me the opportunity. And if anyone has questions or anxieties or ideas, please get in touch with me. I can talk about this for hours on end, and I am definitely here to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who's watching. Thanks for coming on either live or on the replay. Please type in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for Julia or questions about decluttering, definitely let us know. And we'll let you know when we're going to be back with Julia next week. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.